And we
happen.
can go back and look at things we predicted
Yeah,
that
for
came
sure.
true.
Here's an idea. When you tell one of these stories, have a point.
Yeah, it makes
You know,
it so much easier for the
I mean, you get the
listener.
planes and trains poster behind you. I've got a,
You
it's a
gotta
perfect reference.
quote it.
Welcome to the Old Brother Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith.
How you doing, Dan?
Good, man. We're back. We're going to do, we thought it might be good to do a post-strike aftermath show.
Mhm.
It's been about 3 months as of this recording that we talked about the strike as it was
And we
happening.
can go back and look at things we predicted
Yeah,
that
for
came
sure.
true.
Yeah, let me set up a couple of the details here. So the writers' strike,
Mhm,
okay, the Writers Guild strike commenced on May 2nd,
mhm.
2023. It ended on September 27th, 2023. The actors' strike, which as you pointed out in that original episode was a separate thing
Correct.
altogether, that started 2 months later in July. All right,
Mhm.
on July 14th, and that ended just recently, again, as of this recording, on November 9th. It lasted 118 days, the longest in,
Longest in
like, the
history.
studio's history. And as you one of the predictions you made was you said, typically what happens is the writers go on strike and then they conclude, and then about a month later, the
Yep.
actors start, and that's exactly what happened.
And you had asked me, "Do I think it will be a long strike?" And I
Mhm.
said, "Yes."
Yeah, well, you were
So
saying into, like, next year, you were thinking it
yeah,
could go on,
I thought because they and this is not gonna change, but they already filled the slots for the rest of the year with these crummy, if you've seen, like, Big Brother and, Oh Buddy and Camping with Everyone and, all these stupid reality
I like
shows.
how you're shitting on Oh Brother, and yet we watched
We
every
did
episode
watch
of
No, we
this
didn't watch
season.
every episode, but
Well, I surely did.
yeah, I didn't. But
Yeah.
I watched it to kinda have something to talk about with you.
I've been watching it for 25 years. I
I
mean,
I I
yeah,
know you're a big fan,
I
and
was there
I've
from day one.
this is the first season I've ever seen
And
any of them.
and you kinda hung in. You were,
I hung
intrigued
in.
enough to keep coming back.
Right. I didn't think it was like if I never see another one, I won't miss it,
Right,
but,
right.
you know, we kinda had fun talking about it.
Now, one of the main issues on both sides, but certainly in the actor's side of this whole thing, was this issue of AI.
Right.
And right, and so, like,
That
using,
didn't really get settled.
well, enough to where, the nanny, the
Right.
SAG-AFTRA president, Fran Drescher,
Right.
felt that they it was enough to reach a tentative agreement. The tentative agreement they came to is, that there needs to be consent for one thing,
Mhm.
and compensation for use of your likeness, basically. Now,
Right.
what that compensation structure looks like and all that, who knows? But
That hasn't been
you know,
settled. And
no,
and
no.
again, they got a lot. They got the money they wanted. They got more
Well,
money than they wanted.
did they though? I mean,
Yeah.
the contract, as it's told, is the contract's like over $1 billion contract,
Yeah.
right? It's the most in their history, right?
Mhm.
And I think, the thing that sealed it, that led to the conclusion of it, was the fact that now, at least in the contract, there's this issue of AI that's being addressed.
They're acknowledging it,
They're acknowledging it, and
and
then, of course,
streaming
and
was
the
the big
bonuses
one.
for streaming. So,
Yes.
but with the streaming thing, right? It's still not going to be like we talked about in the first episode with the old network kind of model. It
Right, right.
and get 5 seasons and then you can live off that and retire. They're going to work out some percentage, right, from the streamer and the distributor, and they're just going to split that 1,000 ways among all the actors that are working on one particular streaming project or something like that. I
Yeah.
mean, I can't see that, lining their pockets very heavily, but who knows?
But the people who are gonna be lining their pockets, as predicted, are us, because
No, they're gonna be fleecing us.
yes, and it already
No
started.
nobody's lining our pockets with anything. Yeah, in
Right,
fact,
it already started.
yeah, that's the first thing to me, right? Is like you're talking about the aftermath. And you talked about this in the first episode, right? It's going to hit
Mhm.
our wallets. Every single, I think Peacock is the only one that I think maybe hasn't yet announced it, but
Next
every
week.
other platform has already either increased or has announced an increase.
Right.
And it's the average of like
And
$2-3 per month.
our
But
in
that's
our bo
everyone. That's
right.
Paramount, that's Disney Plus, that's
Yep.
Amazon Prime.
I think I was at your place for the convention when I got the email from Disney Plus. They didn't
Hmm.
double, they tripled my rate,
Mm.
and I tripled the amount of times I said, "No, thank you. I'll be leaving." And I said to you,
Will you though?
I said, well, this is what I said to you. I said, it's, next month I'm gonna get a letter. We want you back. And I got it, I
Yeah.
think, before I left your your place. I was only
Will it?
there 5
I don't
days.
know. With the money that Disney's still raking in, are they gonna come knocking on your door that hard, do you think? I don't know. This
Well,
isn't like the cell phone companies where
no,
2 minutes after
Iger
you sever your contract with AT&T, Verizon's knocking on your door,
right.
Here's Johnny.
Iger's already talking about because ESPN has been a nightmare for Disney, and they tried to bundle Hulu, Disney Plus, and ESPN, and people are like, "No, thanks."
Well,
So
that's how shitty ESPN is you've gotta wrap it up
right.
into 9 other things, and you just said that I guess that he's looking at maybe making it a pay-per-view service.
Yes.
People don't want ESPN for free, let alone it's trash.
I remember as a kid talk of the Super Bowl
Mm,
being pay-per-view, and of course, that never came to fruition because they charge $1,500 a seat,
mhm.
for a seat in the boonies. So, I don't know what he thinks he's gonna get, what people gonna buy I'm shocked that so many people buy these MMA fights,
Yeah.
that they go pay-per-view and make any money because I don't you know, flip on any channel, there's an MMA,
In the
fight going
streets. In the
going yeah,
street.
yeah, watch
Yeah.
the streets, look out
Oh,
your
yeah.
window, you'll
Street
see it.
beefs. Yeah. Yeah,
I
there's all
gotta
kinds of
um, we were wrapped up in horror for so long. W
Halloween Fest. Yeah.
yes, and
Yeah, 2023 Halloween Fest. We've
I
already said that
watched
2024 Halloween Fest at Our Brother is gonna be 1.5 episodes.
yeah, it's gonna be much shorter because
Yeah,
I
for everybody's sake.
I was watching s and for I said this during one of the shows. For every one show we did, I
Right.
watched 4 horror movies,
Yeah, I still
and
don't agree with that decision, but
it was a nightmare, but I did go to the movies, and I'm waiting for you to either go to the movies or watch on Apple,
mhm.
Killers of the Flower Moon,
Oh,
which
there's another one. Apple just jacked their
yeah,
price up
yeah,
because,
exactly.
there's the thumbs up. I
Hey,
got it this
you
time. I
got it
love it.
now.
I got my
Yeah.
update now. But I have Apple One Premiere, which we
Mhm.
share.
Right.
Again, now that I think about the digital code, maybe we're even when it comes to that. But anyways, Apple One's got Apple TV as part of
You
that
got Max thanks to
package.
me, by the
Nah, that's
way,
true. Okay,
just to bring that
Max. Actually, I don't know. Max might be a little bit of a better
I
option,
think
yeah.
that's a better
But
deal,
they've just increased theirs too by
but
$3.
people love to hear my stories of visits to the movies,
Mm.
I get
No, I think one person likes to hear them,
I
and
get
you just tried
letters.
to make it like there's this audience of people
Well,
that
I get
give a
letters.
shit
I get
about
letters.
your stories. Is this the story that you've
Which
been wanting to crowbar into this?
yeah, yeah.
Jesus.
I've been wanting to tell a
Okay, I'm just
story
gonna sit back and let's
because
hear the magic.
I saw Killers of the Flower Moon opening weekend. Now, I'm not gonna give anything away as far as did I like it, did I hate it? We'll
Can't
talk about that.
can't believe you've been sitting on this
I've been
anecdote
sitting on
from
this.
wow.
So I go to the box office and I always sit in the handicap section, which I'm rightfully allowed to, but it really doesn't make a difference. What are you trying to yeah, you got me the thumbs down. So really what it should be used for is somebody who's in a wheelchair and then their party gets to sit in those 2 seats. But I have this issue that, I have handicap parking and all that other stuff. And so
Get
I
to the
I'm
point.
getting to it. I go to the box office. I pick out my seat, which I talked about in the past that I don't like picking out my seat because then I'm stuck with whoever's around me. So I say, I'll sit here in this handicap section. Sit down. Somebody comes in, sits next to me, and their partner wheels up next to him. And I'm feeling like guilty. Plus, I'm a little bit annoyed. When I move seats, I always have to like leave the theater and act like I'm just coming in for the first time.
Meanwhile, no one's paying attention to you at all.
Well,
It's all
it,
in your head.
no, I don't think so
You've got to
because
pretend to be talking to fake people. It's a whole
no.
production,
So I leave
much
and
like
I
this
come in
story
the
that you're
other
telling.
door. There's 2 doors.
Right. Yeah, we
So
know how a theater works. Yeah.
yeah, so I went in the left. This time I go in the right, and I don't have this seat, but I go to the handicap seat. Nobody's there. A lot of times nobody sits there. So I sit in the right side and all of a sudden I get
Excuse me.
somebody walks in and they're, looking at their ticket and they're like, "Is that 6E?" And I'm like, "Oh shit, I'm sitting in his seat because he actually paid for the seat." Now this is 10 minutes into the movie.
Mhm.
So I think
We're
I'm
we're
golden at this
we're 10
point.
into the story, so let's wrap it up.
So I didn't leave. I just said, "Screw it. I'll look like a jerk." And I got up and I moved to the center. It's 15 minutes into the movie. Somebody comes in. "Is that 6D?"
2,000 years later.
And I said, "Okay, the best thing I can do is go to the front, in front of people, so that way they won't annoy me with their popcorn crunching
I
and
like
their."
how this is them annoying you. At this point, you've annoyed
I
everybody in the
I've
theater.
I can't disagree with you on that point.
Here's an idea. When you tell one of these stories, have a point.
Yeah, it
You
makes
know,
it so much easier for
I
the
mean, you get the
listener.
planes and trains poster behind you. I've gotta
You
it's a
gotta you
perfect
gotta
reference.
quote it.
And by the way, when you're telling these little stories, here's a good idea. Have a point. It makes it so much more interesting for the listener.
All I can tell you is that is getting edited like no tomorrow. That's gonna be like a 2-second story.
Well, it
Watch,
should
it'll be like,
be.
Christian's gonna do some editing magic, and that's
Yeah,
gonna be and it'll be the
but
most hilarious story you ever heard, folks. God, I mean, that was nothing but you just kind of exposing yourself and all of this
I know, and I'm not
it-
proud of it.
silliness.
I don't like doing this,
That
but the
story,
theater makes me do it.
that story took about as long as the goddamn actors strike to end.
Uh,
Can we get back to the topic at hand?
I don't like
I
it.
knew whenever you're kind of like jockeying for mic time, pardon the pun, I always know I'm over here watching you crash and burn, you know?
Well,
This is like this reminds me of when you were
this
doing stand up and I watched you absolutely eat it
oh,
on stage that
man.
night.
It's literally the
Yeah.
worst night I had doing stand-up in my life.
Get me some draft. There's a reference for you. No one will know. But all right, so we're talking about how this whole strike has hit us in the wallet, much like your ticket to Kills of the Flower Moon and all the
Yeah.
seats that you had to buy. Why don't you just buy the theater out next time? That'd be a lot easier.
That's a good point because I think you can buy it out in the daytime for like $100.
There you go.
I
Be
mean,
worth
that's
it.
my answer, I think.
I think it is your answer.
That and the shrink.
You know, our our wallets are taking a hit because, as
Yeah.
we've just talked about, all of those increases in monthly fees and annual fees for the streaming services. Not to mention, over 45,000 jobs have been lost as a result of all of this, right?
Now,
So,
supposedly in the deal, a lot of those are coming back, and
like the jobs at Disney cut, those are coming back.
well, those aren't
Okay.
coming back. But Fran Drescher said, in a really kind of demeaning way when she was on this interview, she was like, "Well, this is for the little people." She literally used that phrase,
Mhm.
like the grips and the camera guys and all the people that bring the movies to you. There would be no movies without them.
Mhm.
And they're supposed to be getting a bigger chunk than the, millionaires.
She's still living off the nanny residuals. She's doing just
Right.
fine, she's got nothing to worry about.
And I
That
don't
was
think, her gig as president of the union is a non-paid gig.
oh,
I
I
think
would
she's
doubt
getting a
it.
lot of money for that.
Yeah, that's not a pro bono situation there. There was some, I read too the impact to the SoCal economies, like something like over $6.5 billion.
Yeah, in Los Angeles,
Yeah, yeah,
people took a hit, and, we interview a lot of people on the show, and a lot of them may not have been hit in the pocket, but they were hit because their movies were delayed.
They
So
couldn't, they weren't on the circuit promoting them.
exactly,
You
like,
know,
Killers of the Flower Moon's a perfect example. That was a $200 million movie. People were saying it wouldn't make 100 million. It's already at 140. But think if Leo was on Fallon,
right? It's
Jesse Plemons,
it's out of
was
sight,
out
out of
there.
mind. Well,
Yeah,
Robert De Niro,
De
hello,
Niro. I
he's too
mean,
busy flying off the handle in court,
in
apparently.
court, yeah.
Yeah,
What is
good
he
lord.
dealing with, like,
I
3
don't know.
ex-wives or something like
He's a
that?
grumpy old man now or something. I don't know what's going on with him,
At
but
least he's not making the movies Grumpy Old Man anymore.
now they say some of the agreement as it stood when they announced the end of the strike was that, it includes a higher minimum base pay. It's like a 11% increase, I think.
Right.
Um, the streaming bonuses, which would be split among actors, as I understand it, however that's going to work. Increase caps for pension plans and
Mhm.
and insurance, like health insurance.
Correct. Insurance went down because it was
Right.
really expensive.
And then we talked about the consent and compensation for AI, which was really kind of the leading issue, for at least for on the actors side of things, in
Yeah.
the streaming bonuses.
We were talking last night or the night before, like, what are we gonna drop? Are we gonna drop Max? Are we gonna drop Apple? Which one?
Oh,
Because you can't have them all anymore.
I don't know. Well, that's it. I don't know where I'm going to end up, to be honest with you, because they keep sucking. Like Netflix is picking at me now.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are kind of trying to court me right now, and I'm like,
And I don't
maybe
have Netflix.
no. And I've had it in the past, but and I'm like, well, there's that Sly documentary I'd like to check out, which is on Netflix, and so
Yeah.
this push and pull that goes on.
Also, what's going on with the releases?
Well, I was
Dune
going to ask
2
you.
should have been out last week.
Dune 2. Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I was going to mention, again, as of this recording, we just had yesterday, Timothy Chalamet was hosting Saturday Night Live, and
Mhm.
his whole monologue was about the strike ending.
Right,
And now we can get back to shameless self promotion. He was singing
right. Willy
in the
Wonka.
vein of Wonka, which of course
Yeah.
is coming out this month. So
So
I
that
don't
didn't
know.
get touched.
Well,
But Dune
apparently,
2 is a huge epic.
yeah, but so what else do you know about releases? Have you read anything about that? I haven't seen
No,
much about that. Yeah.
I know, there's some movies I know that are in the pipeline that are done.
Like Napoleon is coming. There's
Correct. I
some
don't
like
think
that.
that was touched,
Right.
but, they gotta reslot everything, and I'm not sure, just like, Killers of the Flower Moon, that's supposed to be on Apple right now. When they
Mhm.
originally announced it, it was 10 days after the
It
theatrical
and
release.
this is a separate issue that we were talking about that we mentioned. Is this what's gonna happen now that they're gonna because you remember when we aired the first look on Killers of the
Mhm.
Flower Moon, we mentioned 2 dates, the film
Yep,
release date and the streaming date.
correct.
As of this recording, there's no date for when it's gonna hit Apple TV. It just says at a later date. So as you pointed out, okay, all of a sudden it started to make some money in the theater, and now they're jerking us around and they're gonna kinda dangle that out there at some point on Apple,
Exactly.
you know?
Like,
So
don't expect to see MGM put out movies simultaneously anymore.
yeah, and
I think that's gone.
it makes me wonder too. Well, I said this to you because we were gonna do an episode, and we may still about, a Michael Keaton movie that was on, Max, I think, that had
Right.
an expiration date, which I guess all these platforms must do that, right? It's like, going away in the vault like Disney always did, right?
It was also on Prime, and they pulled it too, which is odd.
Right. So that now is gonna be a thing we gotta deal with as well,
Right,
right?
right.
And I think about in the digital world where I live,
Mhm.
you know, I don't own those movies anyways as it
Right.
is. So it's
I would
kind
be
of like
nervous if I was in the digital world,
right.
you
Yeah,
know? But
no one's coming knocking on your door, backing up a truck to take those 8,000 movies from you, but
who was it,
they might
like,
for me.
while this was all going on, MGM got acquired by who? 2 different companies.
Oh, it was Amazon acquired them.
Amazon, right, and somebody
8
else got a piece.
$8.5 billion.
I eventually we're all gonna work for Amazon. Why don't we just, like, throw down, let's all
Right.
go and just build a warehouse around everyone's
Hey,
corner.
as long as I can get my merchandise, in 24 hours, I'm fine with that, you know?
Hey, we ordered a movie yesterday and it came today, so,
That's right, Scrooged.
you know?
Classic, yeah.
So, anyway.
Well, I mean, it's funny that, and we were seeing these increases already before the strike ended.
Oh, that's
We're
what I forgot to say is
Yeah,
theater.
right.
What are the prices gonna be at the theater now? They're already crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, 18
I've got
bucks.
very little interest in going to the theater now, just as I have very little interest in returning to the theme parks. That's a separate issue, but Disney related.
Right,
And they continue to rake in the money.
but they don't produce new
No.
stuff.
Right. And really they're now more and more they're appealing to kind of the rich and the super rich or people that are willing to kind of spend their whole pension on a family vacation, which is
Right.
basically if you want to have like the premier experience, it's going to cost you thousands and thousands of dollars.
Well, not the last time, but the time before, you and I went to Universal,
Mm,
and we walked in and we saw, you know, "Buy this ticket and you get to skip all the lines."
mhm.
And
It
we
was
looked at each other, we're like,
hey, maybe
"Hey,
we should check that
why
out.
don't we check it out?" And then what was the price?
It was a couple $100.
More than that, it was 380
Was it
a
380? Wow.
piece, a
Wow.
piece.
Yeah, that's crazy. Now,
And we were like, "Well, we're waiting
see
in lines."
see if Disney would do something like and again, making it affordable, like do a bundle with because as I told you, my annual pass is getting ready to expire this
Mhm,
month. I'm not going to renew it,
mhm.
but they could throw in, Disney Plus or like bundle it
Right.
like that, right?
Make it
But
worth it.
everything has a price now.
Yeah.
Every little piece of the experience now has a price. And it's the same thing here with the streamers and I mean, I don't know what else is coming.
How much do you think it's gonna cost? You know this better than I do, because sometimes you go to the movies with 4 people. I'm always by myself,
Mm,
and I'm still like that commercial with the guy, like, "No, I'm only paying for my own lunch
right,
because it's 20 bucks," and he's, like, shocked that a salad
right.
costs 20
I'll just have a
bucks.
water. Yeah.
Yeah, so where are the prices now, and where are they going? So are they gonna shoot themselves in the foot with the theaters again? You
Yeah.
were just
Yeah.
getting them back with Barbie and Oppenheimer,
Right.
and obviously that was a fluke because since then, everything's tanked.
Yeah, I mean, you got the tickets, then you got the concessions,
Right.
and
Forget
again,
concessions.
and as you pointed out earlier, the experience
It's not
itself,
fun.
that's a whole 'nother nightmare,
Right.
which, like, unless it's middle of the week during the day,
Right.
I happen to be off maybe, I'm not up for it. That's why I just keep increasing the size of my TV.
Yeah.
Just have a theater in my house. I just
In
don't wanna
fact,
deal with it. People are
um
too obnoxious.
you know what Disney Plus in their letter, what they used as part of the selling point to triple the price of my subscription?
Mhm.
Now you can watch the IMAX version of the Marvels on your TV. No, I can't. My
Right.
TV isn't IMAX ready.
Mhm.
It's like a little distorted, that's all.
I'll do that right after I watch it in 3D, It'll go the way of
Our buddy
3D.
Kevgret does watch 3D movies, but I
That
think he's
is
like the one and only.
Yeah, he must be the one and only.
I think the studios make movies specifically for Kevgret.
That came and went.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so there you go. I mean, you go back and watch that original episode.
We hit a lot of those.
We did, yeah, and it basically has played out as we discussed in that first
Right.
episode. So, but I'm sitting here thinking, what else have we not thought about that's going to be impacting
Right.
us in what way?
I mean, are you ready to pay $100 so 4 years can go to the movies?
No, no, but that's just not something that really comes up much anyways. There's not much
Yeah.
interest from anybody. It's certainly not the younger, like, I don't think younger adults are, I mean,
They're
that's
not
actually would be interesting. I didn't look at the demographics to see what kind of the theater goers are looking like right now these days. But I mean,
Yeah,
obviously it depends on the film and all of those things,
right.
but with streaming and on your devices and this and that, I mean, I don't
But the
know.
theaters thought once COVID was done,
Right,
everybody's gonna come back.
they survived COVID and then, now this, but yeah, I don't know. This jury's still
Yeah,
out on that one as far as I'm
and
concerned.
that was something we talked about too, was the strike came at the worst time possible. They were
Yeah.
finally getting people back,
Mhm.
and then what's the Al Pacino line, "Once I thought I was out, I guess I'm still out."
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
That's
Yeah.
a little different, than the original, but
Yeah. You've had a couple of gems on this episode, I see. I do I have to
that
pay
would
more?
that would just t that
Yeah.
that reminded me of doing stand-up and just
Do
a
I have to pay
line
more
just
for these? Yeah.
tanking.
Yeah. Well, not much more to say about this topic. It's like I said, it kind of played out the way that we projected it
Yeah,
would. Um,
and now
but
we'll see how
yeah,
bad our
right.
predictions get.
I don't know where I'm going to land. I mean, as you said, and we pointed out, you've got all of these. I mean, I have right now many of the platforms.
Yeah,
I think Netflix is and Hulu is probably like the two I don't have right now.
yeah, I don't have them either.
And I don't have a lot of interest in Netflix is the only one. But every time I've had Netflix, it's the same thing. You get into that vortex of the loop of just you never watch something. It's just constantly seeing what's on the menu because the content. There's so
Right.
much content.
That's
It's
like
overwhelming.
Max. I
Yeah,
spend, I wanna watch a movie and, I
you
got
can't
5,000 around me,
you can't make
which
a decision.
yeah, and then I go to Max and I'm like, I spend an hour clicking,
Right.
and then I'm like, "I gotta go to bed."
Yeah. It's 3 in the morning.
Yeah, good
Well,
lord.
anything else to say about the post-strike aftermath?
No, I'm sorry that we were correct in most
Yeah.
of our predictions, and I fear what's next.
I do want to hear from if you're watching or listening to this episode, drop some comments in on the YouTube video and let us know what you're thinking of. And do you have subscriptions to the streamers?
Right.
Yeah, are you going to re-up your subscriptions? Where kind of I would like to know where people stand on this issue.
Oh, you know
Besides
what I
Archie.
think will be next is how, uh, we get Max because we have AT&T for
Right,
our phones.
right,
That's probably gonna go away,
right, right.
right? Because
Or they'll
there's
just
no expiration date that
Right,
I
or
know
they'll
of.
just jack the price up or just start asking you to pay,
Yeah,
It's in there somewhere, they're gonna get you, but
they're gonna get you.
yeah, they're gonna get you. Rhythm is gonna get you tonight. All right, well, there you go. Post-strike aftermath. Mike's sweet gems of stories there. So it's just the kind of things you can. People are wishing we'd go on strike
I
after
just
those gems.
I just wanted those feelings of failure I suffered
You
when I
could have
did
just told me that
stand
stuff
up.
offline and spared the audience. But anyways,
Probably.
thanks to all of you, by the way, who've been supporting us and continuing to show support, subscribing to the YouTube channel, and following us on Instagram and so forth. The easiest way to find all things Oh Brother, as a matter of fact, just go out to our official website, which is the B as in brother podcast.com. That's ohbpodcast.com. Mike, I think we might have a couple of new mugs on the way coming to
I
us.
think so, because these are just tiny compared to our Halloween mugs.
Right. You need, first of
So,
all, the 15-ounce mug.
yeah.
But the logo is changed just a little bit, so we need to make
Mhm.
sure that we're getting with the times here. So,
Yeah, we're up to
all right,
date.
well, that's going to do it for another episode of the Oh Brother Podcast. I've been your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith, and we will see you next time.
Bye, everyone.